got company! Tiger moving in from the east! Take that mother out!
Hello there, this is Stormdog. Today I'd like to talk about Call of Duty. I mean the original COD back in 2003 when it was only a PC release. This game changed my life. I don't know if I'll call the video Call of Duty 20 years later or Call of Duty, was it really that good? I'll probably call the video something lame like Call of Duty A Shallow Dive, like I always do. I'm not really competing with the big dogs like G-Man or Jarek, I'm just doing it my way. Call of Duty, or COD before anyone called it COD, was my first PC FPS game. I played it on a cousin's computer and it blew my mind. The movement you can achieve with mouse and keyboard makes a controller feel like putting on the training wheels again. Before this, I had mostly played Age of Empires 2 on my family PC. It's a miracle that computer could even play COD. I beat the campaign on easy after much struggling with the controls, then moved on to medium, and all the way to veteran. I beat the game on every possible difficulty setting. It helped I owned very few other games. Going online was insane as your opponent's skill level was just so high, and many maps were just sniper heaven. They were the sniper, I was the guy trying to sneak around the edges to find someone to kill before I got headshotted again. Later, with the expansion, they added some anti-cheat, or at least expanded it especially with Punkbuster. If I remember right, that same expansion added the ability to cook grenades, and on certain maps there was no point spawning. I don't know if it was insane skill from trial and error, or hacks, but there was always a rain of grenades right on your position. It was incredible. Not just the controls, but the history and set pieces of COD opened a whole new world to me. It was insane charging through machine gun fire, or retaking Stalingrad with no gun, and fighting German tanks. Much of the early COD series does focus on the fight against the Nazis, with the fight against the Japanese not coming until much later in the series. I'll be honest, despite the hours I sunk into this, I recall almost none of the player character names. This game breaks the campaign up into 3 segments, American, British, and Russian. In the American levels, you play as Private Martin, parachuting behind the beaches of Normandy to take out the anti-aircraft guns. You get a quick level at Camp Takoa, where they run you through a quick tutorial. It was an interesting period when games made the first level a tutorial and how they showcased it. I kinda miss it, but also don't really want it to come back unless the game has some really specific mechanics. You're then with the 506th in Operation Overlord. You'll then take St. Mary-Église and then prevent the Nazis from retaking it. These levels were so good and I played them so many times, I just saw historical photos of the village years later and realized I had stood in that exact spot. Later, there's a car ride set piece with you being in the backseat of a car trying to get through enemy lines to another unit. You dodge soldiers, other trucks full of soldiers, and tanks as you escape. It's edge-of-the-seat stuff. In this campaign, you do see the beginnings of that military shooter trend where you have to do things exactly their way. Even if you know the levels, don't rush ahead, the game may penalize you. It's so focused on the storytelling, it's sometimes restrictive. Later in the American campaign, you'll go on some missions to rescue high-value British POWs. Here, you will meet this timeline's Captain Price. He looks very similar to the one that is later such a big part of modern warfare. There are at this point 3 separate Captain Prices. The first is here in the original World War II COD games, the second is in the Modern Warfare series, and the last is from the recent reboot series of Modern Warfare. To the best of my knowledge, nothing has ever been revealed about some type of connection between the three. I really don't want to make up a multiverse theory that's become very cliched. The three campaigns are interspersed with each other, and next is the British levels. You play as Sergeant Jack Evans as he rides a glider plane to a bridge as part of Operation Tonga to secure various bridges. Once you take the bridge, your next few levels are protecting that bridge from the Germans. Later, your character will be transferred to work with the SAS on various missions, including one to raid a Nazi warship. On that warship, Captain Price stays behind to cover you and is assumed dead for the rest of the timeline. He shows up in later games and expansions during events set before this game. Playing the original game back then, I had no clue anything like this would ever happen. Finally, you will go in with the SAS to destroy some V2 rocket sites. In these SAS sections, you'll notice some voice work from Jason Statham. I know he did voice work in Red Faction 2, a game I've never quite been able to make myself finish. The whole voice cast here in the original COD is stacked, although I don't know if they were the heavy hitters at the time that they are now. The final faction you play as is the Russians. First, you will attempt to retake Stalingrad and be confronted with the brutality of how Russia treated its own men. You do get to pretend you're Vasily Zaitsev during this section, the famous Russian sniper. There is a sewer section in this campaign. There is a really great level where you retake this hotel, then hold it against the oncoming Nazis and their tanks. The Russian levels end with you being the first to plant your flag in Berlin on the Reichstag, a really memorable moment. There are also some tank levels in here, and they're not bad, but I personally prefer the tank levels from Brothers in Arms, which I reviewed recently. Everything here is pretty accurate, and started a trend, or at least boosted the work, of Medal of Honor on PlayStation that had already done this, where games set out to properly recreate this time frame and the human experiences of these soldiers. We had the Brothers in Arms games, more of the COD titles, Battlefield 1942, and the original Medal of Honor series. This game, COD 1, was even called a Medal of Honor killer during development, and history shows its victory. I wish we had both. A great change from many FPSs I played before this was just how often a squad was fighting beside you, of their own accord and getting their own kills. The pathfinding of your squad is obnoxious sometimes, with them pushing you while you're scoped in. The enemy pathfinding was also intended to be more organic than earlier titles, with the enemy throwing grenades, trying to flank you, and moving from cover to cover. There are great callouts from both sides, friendly and enemy, to give you a better idea of where they are and what they are doing. This game and its expansion use the health kit system, and I rather liked it. Being low on health forced you to be more careful and explore more of the levels. The weapons here are mostly good. Sadly, none of the sidearms are really that useful. It limits you to 2 weapons, but has a reserved sidearm slot. The Garand is solid in most of these early COD titles, but it does not allow reloading in the middle of a mag. For those of you in the comments section, there is a way to reload a Garand mid-mag, it just takes some knowledge. Either the programmers didn't know this or didn't want to program the specific animations is my personal theory. It does add some tension though. The Thompson is fine, but does lose accuracy on extended burst, and the range isn't great. The game does have an accuracy mechanic, where you lose accuracy on extended burst or fast movement, and I like the feature for a bit of realism. This was one of the earliest games to have iron sights, which I love in games. On the correct guns, the game also lets you switch between semi-automatic and automatic fire with a designated key. I barely used it, but I love having the option. As was the historical case, the mag sizes are terrible on so many of the American guns, like the Thompson and BAR. The ultimate gun in the game is the FG-42, as it does everything. Great semi-auto, has a scope, and can go full auto. I looked for every chance to find one of these, but it is only available early in the American campaign. The MP40 in-game is much like the Thompson, just with a better mag. The MP44 is a definite step up, there just usually isn't enough ammo. All the bolt-action rifles in the game are pretty interchangeable. The Lee Enfield No. 4 Mark I does have a unique feature on reloading like the Garand. It runs on clips deposited into an internal magazine and holds 2 5-round clips. You must fire at least 5 shots before being allowed to reload. The Russian PPSH-41 has the best mag of the game, but quickly becomes inaccurate. I love the concept of the British Sten, but it's not real great in this game. It is one of the few guns in history that is truly silenced, with the British Welrod being another. You do also have the M1A1 carbine, but I didn't touch it much. It is pretty accurate though. The Bren Mark II is the superior squad support weapon of the game, especially compared to the mag of the BAR, but I really hate the sights on it. It does have a pleasing punch though. There are in-place machine guns and anti-tank rifles, but I won't get into that. The game has aged a bit in the graphics and how much clutter they can throw into a level, but I'm also the guy that loves indie FPSs. I love the character models in this game and would love to see a revival of these type of military shooters. It will probably never happen for many reasons. This revisit took me about 6 hours, and I breezed through many levels due to all my time in here years ago. I still really enjoyed it. It's a solid game if you like older games, history, or smaller dev team produced games. It was a great trip down memory lane. I can see some of the unfortunate roots of the excessively hand-holding military shooter that came over the next decade. A lot of that is missing here. It is very unfortunate how much this game still costs on Steam. I wish they would make it more accessible like Valve has done with its Half-Life games. I remember saving my lawn mowing money for a couple weeks to go to Office Max and buy this title. Sadly, it did not come with the expansion. Next time, we'll see if we can take a look at that expansion. Until then, this has been Stormdog.